Welcome back to The Run. We're talking the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We've heard what radical free traders would like to see in it. They won't get everything they want for Christmas, or if they do, there's likely to be some sort of tariff left on it. But what about the other end of the spectrum? Organized labor fought NAFTA and lost. They fought its expansion to Latin America and lost. In recent years, rising wages in China did start to send some manufacturing jobs back here to the United States, but then bam, and an incredibly strong US dollar threw a wet blanket on that. So, with low wages a big question in this election cycle, will labor finally beat back a major free trade initiative? Or will the sight of Barack and Boehner skipping hand in hand through the tulips be enough to get it through? And will they be dancing on the grave of unionized labor in America? Melody?
I think that it's interesting that this is the issue that Barack Obama has chosen to sort of, come out strong against the Democratic Party. And what does it say? What will it say about his legacy or even about his progressivism if he manages to pass this with only Republican support? I think that tells its own tale right there.
What has he learned?
What has he learned?
What has he learned, or what has he forgotten? Something has clearly changed. Is it just the act of being president for 8 years?
I think that we know that he's now a lame duck, right? So as soon as the 2012 election was over, he started doing a lot of things that many of us on the left wish he had done much sooner. And there's a lot of Obama supporters, that are more of the centrist camp that have always said, oh no, he really is a progressive, he really is liberal, he really wants to do these things, but he can't because it's Congress and all of that. So once he was a little bit freed up by becoming a lame duck and he started implementing some of the things, they would say, see, here's what he really believes in. He's now doing what he really believes in. So if we were to take that to be the case on all the good stuff we like, the immigration, executive orders, then we have to assume that he really believes this too. And that I don't know if it's naivete, I don't know if it's arrogance, but he really is insisting that all the stuff that was wrong with all the other trade agreements, he will manage to fix. That he's making that guarantee about environmental protections, labor protections. So if the three of the most progressive members or the most progressive members of Congress are saying just let there be open debate. They're not saying no. They're just saying let's read it. Can we know what's in it?
And a couple of Republicans agree with them.
Yes, and in the House, there's a lot of Tea Party Republicans that wouldn't give Obama the time of day, let alone, even if they agree with this, probably won't vote for it because it gives him a victory. So how is that math going to work if, in fact, it's really done? And it's questionable right now whether there can be 60 votes in the Senate to override a filibuster. So
it's a reminder, by the way, that compared to a lot of individual members of Congress, presidents almost always end up being fairly centrist. They might have to appeal to their base at times, but at the end of the day, that's the one office that's supposed to try to get elected by a majority of the entire country. Bill Clinton believed in free trade on a global scale, and it's not surprising really that Obama does too. Again, they're mercantilists and corporatists more than laissez-faire capitalists, but whether it's Bush, Clinton, Obama, or the next Clinton, if she gets into office, they all, once they're in the White House, internal domestic divisions shrink from their view a little bit. And well, actually, you and I know a former Clinton White House intern who is now a PhD in conflict resolution. And as she said from her time there, you'd be amazed how little time the White House spends talking about right and left battles within the country. Because once you're in the White House, your focus is sort of international, and you're basically a public relations operation for the U.S. as almost a company. Please do business with us, Japan. Please do business with us, Europe. Don't trust the law over in that country. The rules will be much easier if you do business in the US. That's what a lot of their time is spent doing. So whether a president's a Democrat or a Republican, he's spending a lot of time sort of hawking America's wares elsewhere and trying to convince people to do business with us.
But no one on the left is objecting to trade, and that's the real mischaracterization. And Obama's done himself no favors by accusing Elizabeth Warren of lying or distorting the facts. Because if he's so confident that she's distorting the facts, then why can't we read it? That's a pretty
You keep coming back to this
yes.
read it issue, but reading a deal that's being negotiated in process with 12 countries is a poison pill against the deal.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They're against
that's
trade.
Their point.
They
no,
are
against
trade. They are. And they're using a
that
poison
is a lie
pill.
and a distortion of the facts. They are against this deal and the kind of free trade
They're
deals
against all free
that we
trade
are stuck
deals.
with. No, they're
not.
not.
They're against NAFTA.
We are against the fact that corporations are writing the deal to their benefit. That the vast majority of items in this deal are about benefiting corporations. They don't benefit average people. They bring back a trickle of jobs to the United States that are at the lowest wages possible, that there's a race to the bottom across the board in terms of environmental regulations, the social cost, all of that.
I would say,
and we've seen that with NAFTA. The American people were not told it. We're not told it. You know, the Mexican workers that come here that are working in the Midwest, primarily in meat processing factories, have no protections. They're paid the lowest wages. They're getting sick from the inhaling all the stuff that they inhale on the job. And our agricultural department is lessening the oversight of these jobs. And then they get no health care when they're done. They lose their jobs if they're sick. There's no sick leave in a lot of places. That's what we get. That's what we've offered. The swine flu came from a farm in Mexico, an American-run farm in Mexico, because there were no regulations. So all of that meat and all those workers, and that came back to the United States. So that's what people are complaining about. They're not saying that we can't trade. We've always had trade. The question is at what cost and who's really benefiting. And we are saying the only people that truly benefit are the people at the top.
Let me ask this. What would it take to make you comfortable that the president is correct when he says he's learned from the mistakes of NAFTA, he's learned from the mistakes of CAFTA, and he's going to build in, we're in such a globalized trade environment today that the United States is in a position to actually enforce labor and environmental regulations as we were not able to do 20 years ago.
Right.
Well, but we're still not doing it in the trade agreements that already exist. Right? So let's see them enforce it in the existing agreements that all had it in there. They all had it in there.
You know, that's very similar
Right?
to the argument we hear from the NRA. Why do we need more gun laws? We don't enforce the laws that are already on the books. Is that true?
Now you're asking specifically about the gun laws?
Well, I'm asking, is it true that we should not expect any better enforcement of any laws, much less the ones that are yet to be written and tested?
I will answer all three of these questions simultaneously, really. Right, government is completely incompetent at enforcing the laws that already exist, and yet legislators like to think they're being productive if they produce still more. It is, Melody's entirely correct that it is an undemocratic crime if legislators can't read the details of the agreement, but Anders is correct, I think, that it's a poison pill if you invite every legislator to become involved in the process. The answer is to make the law much simpler. If it were a 3x5 card that simply said no tariffs, no trade regulations, no quotas, then you wouldn't have to have a 12-month-long secret process. Everybody would know.
But then we still have the sweatshops. Then we still have kids laboring at the age of 12 for 80 cents an hour.
Which tends to be an improvement over what they were doing last year, which was laboring for 8 cents an hour.
Let's get to that in a moment. Be ready. But Heather first.
Are we, the American people, so stupid? Is that what our lawmakers are telling us? That we're so stupid that we can't read this and make sense of it? I mean, I'm not the only one who's taken economics around here. I mean, we can understand. I could read and understand this bill. So could the rest of America.
No one's saying everybody has to be at the negotiating table, but all they've asked for is an open, let it be read, and a 90-day public comment. Period, right? That's public comment, which we have for many of the laws that are in this city, in your local, at state level. It happens all the time.
The president has said there will be such a time. That time is not now.
No, he's saying the time will be after he's been given fast track authority.
And by the way,
that's what the vote is not happening now on the actual agreement. The vote that's being taken is to let Obama single-handedly go out and negotiate it. And I feel like...
But didn't you just say that you didn't want everybody to be at the table? This isn't about
No, I think that people should be able to comment about what it is that's in there and be able to say, hey, while you're out there negotiating, whether it's him or or a team of people, it doesn't matter, these are the things that must absolutely be in there.
As soon as they read it, the special interests jump in from all 12 countries and tear it apart. It doesn't happen.
They're already in it.
Right?
Elizabeth Warren is already in it. Sherrod Brown is already in it.
But you're saying from all 12 countries, it's the corporations that are writing it. If not special interests?
It's not just the corporation. I mean, it's
all of these countries
that are arguing.
Why don't we give it to our best academics and let them read it and report back to it on
then it gets leaked and
there will be that time. That time is apparently not now. That part is not going to change. But what would it take? What needs to be in it to satisfy those on the left that environmental and labor...
I think that they want actually guaranteed minimum wage. They want,
and that does not need to be equal to the U.S. minimum wage.
No,
it
but
used
a
to be
guaranteed minimum wage, right?
$4 an hour, $2.50,
it could be tied to the economic per capita GDP, anything like that. They want enforceable environmental protections. They want sanctions against corporations that break the rules, which they do all the time, and nothing happens. global corporations. I think the other thing is that there's no inherent loyalty to any country anymore by these multinational corporations. They will go wherever they need to go, wherever they get the best deal. It used to be they'd go to whatever state or whatever city offered them a deal, and now they'll go anywhere to get the best deal. So countries that really need their presence there, and again, it's still not benefiting the people at the bottom. Look at Bangladesh. Look at all of that. So those
in
are
Mexico,
supposed to
I'll
have,
say that in Mexico, NAFTA actually dropped the consumer good prices by 50%.
But they couldn't actually get corn,
positive
except for corn.
effect
Their
for the poor
staple
people
food.
in that area. No, across the board, it's 50% drop. Okay, now NAFTA had a very positive effect on U.S. jobs when it said when we increased our exports of agricultural goods to Canada massively. Right, had a great effect on Canadian exports to the U.S.
But not all the Midwest jobs that went to Mexico. The
NAFTA,
factories that moved to Mexico did not have a great effect on American jobs.
But a lot of those, 40% of stuff that's coming in from Mexico is actually going to Mexico first.
Poor Mexicans need jobs. Efficiency knows no national boundaries. The national boundaries
why
are
do we think it's efficient?
Barbaric,
it's not efficient. It is just a race to the bottom.
Tribal nonsense.
Well,
It's not about the tribal
Hold on. To Todd's point that, to your point that corporations are not committed to any country, that they go to wherever,
Thank goodness.
wherever the wages are lowest, isn't that where the desire for work is highest?
Yes.
Aren't those people trying to get that first rung?
Poor
on
Mexicans
the
need jobs.
It's not
There's no
about
desire to
whether
work in this
everybody
country?
needs jobs, but it's about the equity and it's also about the destruction of the earth while you're at it. It's
I'm
about the
against that.
conditions under which people, are given jobs. And there's no when you have no regulation, you get sweatshop factories in Bangladesh that collapse and kill hundreds of people. Nobody's compensated for that and we're not enforcing that. How do you enforce it?
We're not trading these days and like, the expert dyes of Phoenicia that you could only get there. We're trading these days in the cheapest possible labor they can find, and they will source it anywhere. Global supply chain means cheapest possible labor we can find.
Thank goodness.
Damn the cost
destruction of environment.
damn the cost to
goodness.
ship it back to this country, both to the environment and economically.
You want the world to do things the expensive way. That's insane. That causes a net decrease in human happiness. You're asking people to do things the hard way.
Shipping creates jobs.
It's a conundrum for the left,
and a lot
it's
of
a conundrum.
pollution, too.
It's a conundrum for the left. It's a conundrum for the Democratic nominee. Hillary's tough choice on trade is up next on The Run.